Well, Steve, I think it's critically important, and I want to applaud Secretary Rollins for taking the lead on this and bringing that out. There were a number of things that came out of that meeting yesterday when the cabinet was gathered, and what Secretary Rollins shared even then, and she held up that map, if any of you happen to see that, and it just showed the places that the Chinese government owns. And we did some digging and found out in my own district, probably 5 of the 9 counties that I represent in the 8th District of North Carolina have land that is owned by the Chinese government through these hog farms and things that they have purchased. Really play a major part in this. And there, of course, we have Fort Bragg, which is always and has always been such a centerpiece in North Carolina. And again, that we just got a real problem of them having land around these military bases that should be concerning to every American.
Yeah, there's a whole list of things that I find concerning. I heard the farmer there, Mark Benjamin, talk about ag terrorism, what it would mean devastating American crops. It would not just hurt America, but places that have food insecurity, sub-Saharan Africa, because we supply a tremendous amount of grain to that part of the world and other parts as well. You've got that. Antibiotics. We don't even make antibiotics in America anymore. China makes them all. Our RX, our prescriptions, linked right to China. At the NIH today, the National Institutes of Health, there are 1,000 Chinese citizens who are employed as scientists at the NIH. I think we have been terribly reckless leaving the door open, sir, to people that don't care what happens to America. They care only about what happens to China and building up the CCP. There seems to be a lot more work to be done. What would you say?
Oh, I agree with you 100%. I not only serve on Agriculture Committee, but I also serve on Education and Workforce. And one of the things that we noticed early in my first term here was that China had a significant amount of money wrapped up in the contracts with our institutions of higher education. And so we actually entered a bill that there would be no contracts with foreign adversaries, and it got wrapped into a larger bill that was called the Deterrent Act, which we did pass in the U.S. House already. It's sitting over there in the U.S. Senate, and I'm hopeful that now that we've got the one big beautiful bill done, that Senator Thune's going to be able to take action on that, and let's get it to the president's desk. But listen, we've got to be very much aware. I mean, 400,000 acres, I believe it is, that China owns of our farmland here in the United States. And we cannot be too careful. And again, grateful for this administration, grateful for the president's commitment and Secretary Rollins in this particular case stepping up and calling it out. And there's a number of things going on in Congress right now, several bills that have been introduced that we're looking at. Some from just like this would call for an all-out ban on it completely. Others, I know that there's a bill floated that would say that we would take the same position that countries take with us. China certainly doesn't allow us to own their farmland. And why in the world should we allow them to own 400,000 acres? So.
Yeah, I would take it a step further and say we shouldn't allow any foreigners to own land in the United States. I can't own land in Mexico, for example. I can lease it for 99 years. I can never own it. And that's the way many countries approach this sort of thing with real estate. Look, you've got the Russiagate cover-up, the Biden decline cover-up when he was in office, the Epstein cover-up, which is more in the headlines, and the China cover-up of money with the Biden administration as well. It makes me ask the question, as a lot of people do, how much money flowed into the Biden White House or into Hunter Biden's coffers because of their relationship with China, and who is really paying the price? And we need to know more about that. Would you agree?
Oh, I do agree. And I think that the Oversight Committee under the leadership of Congressman Comer is continuing to dig down on these issues. It's just like peeling back an onion, layer after layer. And I think that one thing seems to attach to the other. And I think all of these that you mentioned are certainly critical issues that have got to be investigated, got to be uncovered. And we're going to see it happen, I think, in the weeks ahead.
Yeah, there's no question. We have countries on this earth that threaten us, Russia, Iran, North Korea, but nobody is a bigger adversary than China. And they run an asymmetrical war against us every single day. Whether we realize we're in a war with China and the CCP or not, they believe they are with us, and that's a critical thing to keep in mind. Now, I'd like to shift gears here for a moment. President Trump's rescissions package to eliminate $9.4 billion of wasteful spending is on the table. Sir, what can you tell us about it? How important? The Democrats already screaming foul. We must be doing something, right? Go ahead.
Yeah, I would tell you that that was certainly one of the votes that I was most proud of recently, and that was when the U.S. House passed the rescissions package of the $9.4 billion. It's absolutely critical. If you remember, people were beside themselves as DOJ began to just uncover the kind of things that were going on. In those first 6 weeks of the Trump administration this time, we were seeing USAID and all of these different projects. I mean, that was an 80% issue, Steve. 80% of Americans who saw that immediately said there's no reason our money needs to be going to those kind of things. And so that's the biggest part of this $9.4 billion rescission package. Of course, NPR and other things that we've seen, PBS are part of that as well. I described it much when it was in the U.S. House as almost being like a softball that's being pitched right over the plate. And if we as Republicans can't knock that out of the park, I don't know what we can say for ourselves. So it's now in the Senate. It's important that they move swiftly. Let's get this done. And frankly, I think we're all looking for a number of rescission packages to come from the White House, make their way up to Capitol Hill, and let's take care of business. The $9.4 billion is just a start of these things that DOJ uncovered, continues to uncover, and we've got to take action on them.
Congressman, I think a lot of people would agree with you. These are softballs. These are what people put these members of Congress in their seats to do. Clean up the waste, the fraud, the abuse, and clean up the paychecks and make sure we're not paying people that don't deserve to get paid or setting benefits to people who do not deserve them. It's time to clean up our act. Now, I want to go back to something else we touched on here a moment ago. Former FBI Director James Comey and John Brennan and Barack Obama and James Clapper, these four in the target of a criminal investigation now because everything they said about the Russian investigation appears to be completely false, manufactured, in fact, and pushed by John Brennan, maybe more than anybody. He said in 2023, I didn't think that the dossier, the infamous dossier, should be included in that report. And in fact, now we know because John Ratcliffe has released the receipts, if you will, the memo that shows, in fact, it was quite the opposite. John Brennan pushed for that dossier to be included in that intelligence report that gave them the opportunity to smear Donald Trump, to frame Donald Trump, and to undermine Donald Trump's presidency. That's all out in the open now, isn't it?
History would, I think, agree as we see these reports come out that honestly, it makes Watergate look like child's play compared to what they have been doing. And I think the evidence seems to be there. I mean, you had a deputy director that was warning Brennan that it was not proper, that the dossier had already would not fit in this report that they were doing. He didn't care. He wanted to get out some kind of scathing report that would somehow be so misleading and hinder the Trump presidency. And it is a shame, and I think that the American people are ready to see this exposed. I think they're ready to see somebody answer for these actions. And I'm hopeful that this is just the beginning. And again, as we see the FBI get into this investigation, more information will be out there. And then, of course, it's going to be up to grand juries to indict. And I hope we see somebody pay the price for this.
Let me ask you this, Congressman, because it becomes more and more clear that Barack Obama was in all of these conversations prior to leaving office. He encouraged Brennan and Comey and Clapper. I mean, he was the president. He knew that this dossier came by way of a Hillary Clinton campaign financing. If Barack Obama is found to be part of this, how far should we take this? What should be done?
How many times have you heard it said, nobody is above the law? I believe as long as they follow where the evidence leads, that anybody that is identified that they have been part of this, and really, I mean, it's almost treasonous when you get down to it, to completely try to append a presidency of Donald Trump in his first term, and it kept it so occupied with this kind of junk. I believe they've got to follow the evidence, and I believe to whomever it leads, wherever it leads, that it's up to this Justice Department to call it out and deal with it accordingly. Somebody needs to answer for what's taken place, as high as it goes.
So would you support the prosecution of the former President Barack Obama if all roads lead back to him and the fraudulent Russiagate and the dossier and all of those things smearing Donald Trump? Would you support the prosecution of Barack Obama?
I would support the prosecution of anybody that there is evidence of their guilt, and we must take it wherever. No one is above the law. Everyone says that. Everybody agrees with that. Nobody is above the law. And I think if you just follow the evidence, then we've got to draw our conclusions from that. So I think the important thing is that this investigation is done right. It's done well. It's done in a nonpartisan way, but it is looking for the facts and sticking with the facts. And wherever the facts lead, then that's where the accountability needs to be found.
Congressman, we'll be watching closely. A lot going on. The CCP, Barack Obama's team, enemies foreign and domestic, potentially. Sir, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, Steve.